Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of Generation GC, the anthem from The Young and the Hopeless, Good Charlotte's 2002 sophomore album, with Scott Fugger, the host of Fly on the Call podcast. My name is Molly Hudelson. I am your host. Last week, we talked about Motivation Proclamation from Good Charlotte's self-titled debut album. A few days ago, we had the special emergency update episode talking about Good Charlotte's brand new song last December, and my voice is all over the place right now, but I'm still just bursting with so much excitement about this. Next week, we will be talking about a song from the Chronicles of Life and Death. On a somewhat related note, this episode was originally going to be episode 42, but since I did the update on last December, this is now episode 43, but you might hear me refer to it as 42 at the end. So, Scott's show, Fly on the Call, Candid Conversations on Music, is part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. Each week, he chats with a different musician about music and lyrics, the successes and challenges of being in a band, and more as he gets to the core of each artist. Scott focuses on diversity in both the genres and backgrounds of the people he speaks to, with past guests including Meet Me at the Altar, Spanish Love Songs, Yours Truly, Silverstein, and The Wonder Years. The Anthem is a massive song. This is one of Good Charlotte's most well-known songs. It's one of those, even if you don't really know the band, you know this song. And I really respect and appreciate everything that Scott has to say about music in general, so I am so glad that he could join me for this episode. Right now is a very exciting time in the GC fandom. New music just has us all on edge. We're happy. We're wondering what's next. We're all in good spirits. If you have friends that are GC fans, please tell them about the podcast. Whether they are diehard fans or they're casual listeners or they just checked out the new track. I think this means more people interested in learning more about Good Charlotte, hopefully. So send it my way. Tell them about the podcast. As a reminder, y'all, please visit antisemitism.card.co and blacklivesmatters.card.co to learn more about anti-Semitism and the Black Lives Matter movement, respectively. It's important to educate ourselves and to continue speaking out against all forms of injustice. And please, if there's any other resources or things like this that you would like me to link, please let me know. And if, I don't want you to feel like I'm leaving out any movement or any group of people. I don't want to make this too long, but I want to make sure everyone feels like I'm addressing, relevant, important issues. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. Do you want a sticker? They would look great on your notebook, on your water bottle, on your wall, on your car. And they're pretty small to put on your car, but you get the idea. Two things you can do if you want a Generation GC sticker. They're holographic, by the way. They're very cool. Number one, go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. And that support of the show just helps me keep things going. All the money that comes into the show goes right back into making it the best it can be. So that's buying new headphones, laptop stands, adapters, cables, notebooks, things like that, as well as printing stickers. Number two, you can make a charitable donation. Go to blacklivesmatters.card.co. There's a lot of organizations listed there that could really use your help. And make a donation. Whatever you can afford to give is going to make a difference. And then you're going to send me a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or your charitable donation. And as well as your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. Well, that's about all for our show. Scott and I have an awesome conversation coming up for you. I really hope you guys enjoy listening to his perspective. Thanks for tuning in. Now on to the episode.
So, The Anthem is track 2 on The Young and the Hopeless. Track 1 is A New Beginning. Track 3 is Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. It was released as the second single from this album in February 2003, following Lifestyles, which had been released as a single just before the album came out in the fall of 2002. Written by Benji and Joel Madden and John Feldman, and they've played this live a ton. Setlist.fm has it ranked as their most played song, with 305 set lists included, but they are missing a bunch of shows. Like, I was looking by dates, and I'm pretty sure setlist.fm doesn't have most of the actual The Young and the Hopeless tour. So they've played this well over 305 times. The first time they played it was October 5th, 2001 at Power Station in Auckland, New Zealand, a few more times before the album came out. But basically, like, if you've seen Good Charlotte at all since fall of 2002, they have played this song. They've played it at festivals, at headlining shows, on tour with Justin Timberlake. They played it on SNL. They played it at the VMAs in 2003 and the NFL kickoff in 2003. People who have seen Good Charlotte live multiple times may also know that the GC jump will often happen during this song. Chart notes, it peaked at number 11 on the Hot 100 on May 10th, 2003, which makes it their third highest Hot 100 hit behind Lifestyles and Girls and Boys. It also reached number 11 on the mainstream Top 40 that same day and charted in several other countries, including Australia, Scotland, and in the UK, it reached number 10 on the singles chart and number 1 on UK Rock and Metal. It is certified gold in the US with 500,000 sales over that, and in Australia with 35,000 sales plus, and certified silver in Britain. I think that's about it for our stats, but one last note in our intro. It vaguely important trivia that this is the second of 3 Anthem tracks that Good Charlotte has done. The first being East Coast Anthem on the self-titled album, and the third being Dance Floor Anthem on Good Morning Revival. And that was a mouthful, and I think that might be the longest one of these I've done to date, with reason. We got a lot to talk about, but Scott, I want to help our listeners get to know you and Fly on the Call. So the first thing I like to ask everyone is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
So I was trying to kind of rack my brain. When this album came out, I would have been in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I might not have necessarily like heard them until like middle school. Like I feel like 6th grade was when, I started, I guess probably other people started getting more into music as well. Yeah. And like, I feel like I remember hearing it like on the bus or whatever. And like, I always lumped it in my mind along with like bands like Sum 41 and Simple Plan.
Understandably, yeah.
Which were kind of like all what shaped like the start of my rock music tastes. And I also I used to listen to, this is how like backwards I am. I didn't have AIM. I had Yahoo Messenger.
Oh my God.
Like pre-Pandora, they had like radio stations built in. And
okay, that's cool though.
I can't remember if it was like based on stuff you liked or if it was just like a general like rock. But like that was like probably some of the first times I, familiarized myself with some Good Charlotte songs. I was like when I found bands like Silverstein and like I said, Sum 41, Simple Plan, like all those kind of early 2000s pop punk bands that really kind of like shaped who I am today.
And that was before like on-demand streaming like Spotify, Apple Music. So things like Pandora were kind of like your option if you wanted to listen to music and not pay for it legally.
Yeah, for sure.
I also like to ask everyone, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
I have not. Okay. They did tour with one of my favorite bands, like I said, Silverstein, in Canada a couple of years ago. And if that was a US tour, I probably would have ended up seeing them with that.
Yeah. So, Scott, you've been the host of Fly on the Call for over a year now. It'll be probably like a year and a half, close to a year and a half by the time this episode goes up. Before that, you were writing for music blogs and websites. Are you still writing?
So the podcast really kind of came around by me. I would do interviews with bands and have a lot of fun doing that. And then I would sit on them for like a month or two and feel like shit about myself and not transcribe
I've never
it.
done that. ever.
Yeah. So I just kind of got, sick of both like feeling that guilt and also not having that productivity. Cause like what I want to do is get the music that I like to people's ears, that people who are gonna like them. So the podcast really just came around from me being like, well, I still want to help promote music in some way, and I really enjoy these conversations that I've been having with people. So what's a way to cut out the writing part of it?
Yeah.
And it was by cutting out the writing part of it and just make it in a podcast.
What I found is that I don't spend like less time on this show than I did. I mean, maybe at my peak of writing, I probably was writing more hours a week than I spent on this show. But like one episode of this show, it's not like it takes me less time personally than like one written interview, but it feels like less of an obstacle. It's just such a different thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think, at this point, I think I counted it up kind of right before I started the podcast because I have, a list of kind of like all the things that I've written. And I'm pretty sure I counted it up and it was about 50 interviews that I had done. And that was between like 2015 and 2019. And now in, the last year I'm about to hit episode 60 in a few weeks. So like, I'm definitely more productive this way and spending more time on it overall, but like, I don't know. It just feels like different.
Being on a schedule helps. Because for me, I've definitely found that like having a schedule of like, okay, gotta get an episode out like that. For me, I would say that's helped a ton.
Yeah, I think so. I think, because there's been like a couple weeks that I've been like, I don't feel like editing. Let me just skip the episode this week on the spur of the moment. But yeah, definitely like feeling that. And also just, I feel, having this be my podcast. Like I'm running the socials, I'm editing it and uploading it, like everything. Like I feel also like kind of more connected to the people who are connecting with what I'm doing. So like
100%.
That also is very motivating.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. And you get a lot of bands that you get a lot of big names, but you also get a lot of bands like Bugs. You had Meet Me at the Altar before anybody knew who, I would say before a lot of people knew who they were, definitely before they got signed, and they kind of exploded, right? How are you finding new music, and how are you finding guests for the show?
So I am, again, as we were talking about my guilt with interviews and like getting stuff published, I have a big guilt about how bad I am at PR emails.
Sure.
If I get one that's, specifically for me and like, kind of shows that the person pitching me the band like actually thinks that I'll like it, I try to get back to them. Sometimes it takes me months, but I almost always get back.
I don't release that at all. I reply to every email like immediately, like every single email I always reply to.
Oh yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, so I really that typically that's the way a lot of people involved in like the writing side of music.
Sure, yeah.
Find stuff, but for me, I'm mostly I'm on Twitter a whole lot, and I just kind of see what other people are talking about, see what other bands that I love are talking about, and if I'm in the mood to check something out, I check it out.
Yeah, and something that I really appreciate about your show is that you really focus on diversity. And, when I was growing up, most of the bands that played the music I listened to were straight, white, cisgender men from either obviously Christian backgrounds or like, definitely not like Jewish backgrounds or any non-Abrahamic religion backgrounds. But, there was Paramore and a couple others, but it was very, very dominated by straight white men. You are a white man, right? Like, but you are also an advocate for people who are minorities, who are people of color, LGBT, and you've had, I have felt as a listener, obviously can't speak for everyone, but it seems like you've had a really good representation on the show. But can you talk to me a little bit about, how you be the best advocate or the most inclusive you can be? I don't know what the right word is, while being, in many ways, the privileged person here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so like diversity has, since I originally like made my notes about what I wanted the show to be, like I jotted down the name Fly on the Call and I was like, I want this, and this. And the diversity was always one of the goals. Like I'm never going to have more than 2 episodes in a row with bands that are, all straight cis white men. Like I had that specifically set, and most of the time a lot of times it's not even 2 in a row. Like I said before, what I want to do is promote bands. Like I want to get these musicians that are making music that I love to as many people as possible and help them get the success. So really, I just, if I could edit myself out of the podcast, I would be fine doing that and having it just be that. Like I'm more there just to, make the flow happen. So I really just try to approach things like that way. Like I'll,
you're a platform, but it's about what they have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'll see, kind of what's out there about the band. How do they project themselves? What kind of messages are they showing? And those are the kinds of things that I'll hit on and try to get them, try to draw it out of them, and get so that other people who feel the same way that they will, to get them to connect on that level, because those are the kinds of like fan relationships.
Yeah.
When they're able to connect like that, those are the kinds of fans that will be supporting a band years down the road. Like they say, you only need like 100 actual fans that just support you throughout your career. And that's the kind of people that I want, because that's the kind of fan I am with the bands that I love. So that's the kind of,
I mean, you and I both had driven, I know for me, including stopping to pick up Joel, it was like 7 hours. How far was it for you to drive to Buffalo last summer for Pentimento?
It must have been about that, because I think up to Toronto is like 8.5. So
right. Yeah. One more question that I had before we dive deeper into the anthem is just a general remark, I guess, on your show is that, whether it's an up-and-coming band, that this week you had a band called Rot on the show, which, by the way, that hint, me and several others were like, oh my God, did Scott get Smashing Pumpkins on his podcast? That's incredible.
I truly did not even think about it until Liz, my fiance, said to me, did you secretly talk to Billy Corgan? I was like, oh my God, I did not. It was not meant as a fake out.
I have to give you credit, by the way, because you gave me the idea to do the hints for each song that I'm doing. So I'll have to think of a good one, a good, obscure hint I can give. But, whether it's a band like Rot or Silverstein, the Wonder Years, who are not only big, but 2 of your favorite bands. I mean, I feel like I'm just listening to my friend tell me about their new song. Like, I feel like you are like my cool hip friend that knows about everything and is like really knowledgeable, and this band is like my new friend. Can you talk to me about what you keep in mind when hosting your show, just in terms of like your quote unquote brand or personality as a host?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my interview style really just kind of comes from like a genuine curiosity. Like the bands that I reach out to and want to have on are bands that, like, because I'm a fan of them. So, I kind of form the questions based on what I want to know more about, based on, what's out there. I always do my research, to see kind of what's out there, to find areas that I can kind of expand on, or, new ones to dig into with them, so that it feels like a fresh conversation, because it is a fresh one. It's not like the same conversations they've been having with the same 5 blogs. Which I sound so outdated saying that anyway.
Right. But that is such a good point, though. Like, it sounds so simple, but it really is so true. Ask people what you want to know, and it feels genuine. But sometimes, like, the most helpful pieces of, advice. I know that I have some people who listen to this show that are like trying to start up podcasts of their own and stuff. Sometimes the most helpful pieces of advice really aren't that simple and straightforward.
For sure.
So let's dive into the anthem. So, Scott, I had reached out to you in March one, weekday morning when I got this idea on my way to work, and I was like, all right, let me text a bunch of my friends who, I don't know if they like this Charlotte or not, but I know they can talk about music. And I know you're not like a diehard GC fan per se, like myself or a lot of people I've had on the show. But like I said, obviously I really respect what you have to say about music. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on Good Charlotte. But why did you want to talk about the anthem in particular?
I mean, for me, I think it's just kind of like the quintessential Good Charlotte song as I know them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the one, like I was kind of surprised that as far as like the charting position that Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous and Girls and Boys were higher, because I feel like out of those three, I feel like the anthem is the best, and I feel like it kind of also has, which the charts don't necessarily measure this, but like I feel like it has more staying power than the other two. Like I feel like those seem very early 2000.
How so?
Just like it, just kind of like lyrically, I guess it's ambiguous enough that it, you can kind
it's
of
not like
make
specific.
it fit with whatever situation, and it's not like, I don't know, it feels less of its time. Like it doesn't feel like as dated to me.
That's fair. I was tweeting about some of the Lifestyles lyrics today, and those are definitely like very specific references. Let's talk about what this song means. What is your interpretation of what they're saying lyrically?
I mean, I think, one of the quotes that you pulled out from an interview that you found was kind of about them writing this song, and it being for a movie originally, and then basically saying they wanted Little Things 2.0.
Yeah. Well, no, okay. Well, I was going to save this quote for a bit, but the quote was that they said they wanted. So Benji's talking to AV Club, and the movie had asked them, "We wanted a song like this one. Can you write another loser anthem?" And Benji says, "I thought that was funny because for all intents and purposes, they were calling us losers." It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, I think, like, I don't know. So I have a couple of different ways I want to go. First of all, it seems like that means it was written for Dude, Where's My Car? Because he says that they ended up using Little Things. Which also, and he says he was 19, which means that it was written in 1998 and then didn't come out until 2002.
I feel like, okay, so...
And Dude, Where's My Car is 2000, so time-wise that part makes sense.
Right,
but
and Little Things was definitely written before. So Little Things was included on the first album released in 2000. It was written at least a little bit beforehand because there's like older demo versions, and there is, I couldn't find it on YouTube, but like I had a demo version of this song called literally just called Another Loser Anthem. That was definitely like pre The Young and the Hopeless. But yeah, so there's this Alter the Press interview where Joel says, so I was like digging into this too just before we got on. He says he met John Feldman when he was 19. And they went surfing the first time they met. And he says the movie was interested and had called asking if they needed a song. I don't know if that implies the movie had called the first time he had met John Feldman.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. But I think you're right that it could be, maybe it was intended for Dude, Where's My Car? But I think I'm like reading this quote more. So he says the movie was interested and had called asking if they needed a song. We were hanging with John at the time and said we should just do it. We went and wrote the anthem, me, Benji, and John. It turned out the movie didn't even want it, but we really liked the song, and the fact we wrote it with John made it extra special. We only went into the studio with one song, and that was the anthem. I don't know. I kind of get from that it was, largely probably. So this was a interview from 2012, like retrospective, 10 years of the Young and the Hopeless. I kind of get the vibe that the movie said they needed a song was not the first time they met John Feldman.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense then.
But it was definitely, you're definitely right that it was like predates the Young, well predates the Young and the Hopeless. I would suspect that too. Yeah, I mean, I think this song, it also just symbolizes to me, like what I get from it is it just symbolizes a lot of what I think Good Charlotte is about, and like where I think a lot of their fans are, like being yourself, having a hard time in school, like you don't fit in with your peers, your teachers don't believe in you, but kind of finding that confidence and realizing that you don't want to be like everyone else, you want to be you, you're kind of ready for that next step. Maybe you found like a little outsider community, maybe not, but at least you're like, okay, I don't want to be in the mainstream anymore.
Yeah, it's funny, like, you kind of saying that it's kind of like what Good Charlotte's about, because, from, like you said, I'm not a diehard fan, but from like starting to, my fiance's been playing them more recently, just like kind of a good range of the songs. Like I didn't necessarily know a lot of them, but like the more that I've actually like intently listened to them, and also like some of the stuff that I've gained from your podcast and everything, like I feel like this is kind of like, it's like the music that you think, like if you just hear it, you're like, okay, this is just generic pop. Like there's nothing to it, whatever. The musicians playing it probably don't even care about it. But then when like you actually listen and like watching the music video for the first time, because I'm not a music video person, but like seeing like, the way they looked and the way they present themselves and stuff, I feel like it just makes so much sense. Like the whole package makes sense. And like you said, I feel like, that sounds like what they're all about, is just kind of like being whoever you are, whatever you want to be, however you want to do it, and like not giving a fuck.
It's definitely, and definitely a lot of the first record was kind of like, it was a mix of, we're really poor and we want to be famous and not poor. And it was that, and their dad leaving and just not being cool, right? Like little things, and I heard you on the click. And this record definitely has more angst to it, but I think you're right, and I think that points to your comment about like if you didn't like know what it was about or like any backstory, even this song you might be like, what is this? Like, Joel even said in this All to the Press interview, he said, I honestly didn't think the anthem would even be a big song. It's weird how that even happened. And he said that it goes off live, it's a fan favorite, but I don't know how much of a hit it is. I'm not one to know. We've never had a number one single, but hits in a really weird way. But I don't think we had number songs that dominated the charts. And he says it's a special song. I think this is definitely a silly song. Can we talk about the silliness of this song? Because there's a lot to talk about this song, but something I was really appreciating as I was getting ready for this episode was how silly this song is. Throw all your hands up. This is the anthem. Throw all your hands up. Like, who says that? Another loser anthem. It's like empowering because you're like, yeah, I'm a loser and this is my anthem. But it's also like, oh gosh, I'm kind of a loser. But it's like finding that empowerment. Do you think that phrase, another loser anthem, is that serious or tongue in cheek?
I definitely take it, especially after reading the quote about the movie, I definitely take it as, tongue in cheek. And that makes me like it even more.
Yes, totally. I think that is something that a lot of critics kind of missed, like the tongue-in-cheek kind of aspect of a lot of their songs, or the sarcastic or ironic aspect. Because if you don't know that that's there, especially with so many other similar bands at the time, you might not necessarily like pick up on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Blink-182 kind of hit you over the head with it, which is also funny because I made a connection here again about the movie. It reminds me a lot of the way, like the story of them Blink-182 writing First Date and the Rock Show after record producer, executive, or whoever, said,
we just need like a Blink-182 song. Yeah.
So it's like, it just makes the song make even more sense to me.
Right, like you're trying to write like yourself, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're talking about the silliness of this song, I also have to point out, shake it once, that's fine. Shake it twice, that's okay. Shake it 3 times, you're playing with yourself again. And I will be honest, when I heard this and I was 11 years old, I did not immediately pick up on what he might be hinting at. But like year or two later, I picked up on it and I was like, ew, that's so dirty.
Yeah, my fiance's cousin's neighbor, who was an adult, actually explained that lyric to her and her cousins.
Oh, God.
And I am interested on how that ended up coming up.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I think that's just throwing some silliness into it. Like, I don't think that line per se has deeper meaning. But, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, something that I actually only picked up recently is like the minor threat reference in the song.
Yes.
The lines out of step while they all get in line. I'm just a minor threat, so pay no mind. And
they're definitely schooled on quote unquote real punk and hardcore.
Yeah, which, like I said, like I don't know, it just appeals to me that like they, I don't know, to use a phrase, like they can hang, but like they also like make the decision to make the type of music that they do. Like that just makes it seem more genuine to me.
Yeah. And I think if you weren't paying close enough attention, again, you wouldn't, I mean, definitely my 11-year-old self did not pick up on the minor threat reference because my 11-year-old self did not know what minor threat was.
The same.
Probably found out about minor threat through like digging through Good Charlotte message boards, and someone was like, oh, minor threat, like that's a band, blah, blah, blah. You know, finding out about straight edge and everything. But yeah, there's a lot of references like, and not to say that like music critics aren't smart, because you would think that music critics would be smart. But I almost wonder if they were kind of just globbing on to the surface level, the public perception.
Yeah, I feel like they're also just like kind of not like the target audience. Like I feel like not. The Anthem is kind of like the perfect like middle school dance song. Like,
yes,
it's something that's like kind of so. It's like broad, so you can kind of apply it to whatever situation you want, and I feel like that's perfect for people who are just kind of who are still figuring out who they are. Not necessarily like maybe if it was a little bit later in the 2000s and it was more like the blog age when it was like a lot of teenagers writing about music, maybe it would be received like slightly differently.
Yeah.
Versus, adults trying to think critically about another loser anthem.
Right. That's something that's been brought up on the show a few times. I had a great conversation with Maria Sherman about it. I had a great conversation with Nikki Perry about it, who's not a writer per se, but a concert photographer. And we talked about it a lot on the show, that the advent of the blog world, when like teens and college kids could just start writing about music, and even if they weren't getting paid, meant that, oh, the target demographic of this music is actually writing about it. And I think that played a very big role. You're totally right. That played a very big role in the tone of music criticism in general, just being, I think, a little nicer in the advent of the blog era, Yeah. But yeah, like we'll get to some reviews in a bit, but there's some that are not very nice. The retrospective ones are like pretty cool, but obviously, some of the like reviews at the time were harsh. There was another quote from that AV Club interview where the interviewer points out that the loser anthem that wasn't good enough for that movie became a hit and wins an MTV Video Music Award. And Benji says, "It's funny how that works, isn't it? That song went on to be one of our most popular songs, and it's another loser anthem. But I think Good Charlotte has definitely always been for the underdogs and the misfits. We haven't ever really been the critics' darlings." I kind of can't imagine a world in which Good Charlotte is like a critic's darling in any way. Maria and I had a great conversation where she told me that, at least the Maddens, Benji and Joel, have a lot of respect and admiration and appreciation for music creds, but still they're definitely just not like a critic's band. Mm-hmm. But I wonder like how our, like, as listeners' perspective would have been different if critics were nicer to them at the time. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, personally, I wasn't even keyed into that kind of stuff at the time. So I think like my original judgments were just kind of, just based on whatever I like, based on my genuine reaction.
And I'm sure, some people who were, like wearing Good Charlotte shirts to school and stuff, you would like first kind of hear it from other kids at school. And then to me, it's like I start going down the rabbit hole online of like wanting to read the interviews and all the reviews and stuff. And that's when I like start seeing a lot of the criticism.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wanted to read something that Joel had told Sorted Mag back in 2002. I think either like right before or right after the album came out. And, the story says that as far as their popularity goes, they believe it's because people can relate to them lyrically and personally. Billy points out that we don't really come from anything. We had to work hard to get whatever we have, and most kids can relate to that. This is reflected throughout the album, especially in Joel's deep, often extremely personal, I think they meant lyrics. The anthem is one of the prime examples. Joel describes it as a song about not living the way that you're supposed to live. Like, I guess that in America, everybody kind of looks at it. To be successful, you got to go to college, get a job, house, 2 cars, wife, and some kids. That's the American dream or whatever. It's like, well, I can never go to college or whatever. I'm kind of proud of being looked down upon because we've made something happen. We didn't have the most opportunities growing up. And then Billy says that to us, it's a song saying that whatever goal you have, try and reach it. I like that. I was thinking about Waldorf Worldwide earlier today, which I don't know how familiar you are with that song, Scott, but on that song they talk about like all the things they want to do, basically. And I was like thinking about it and I was like, oh, they've basically done by 2020, like all of that things they're saying they wanted, like they've pretty much done, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Like being, I guess, just like being, I don't know. I think it just shows that like being genuine, like pays off.
I think the fact, I can't stress enough that the fact that they wrote it for a movie and then the movie doesn't use it just feels very Good Charlotte, like epitome of Good Charlotte. But it was featured on a lot of movie and video game soundtracks, including Madden 03, which I guess gave it a big boost, American Wedding, Dumb and Dumberer, When Harry Met Lloyd. It was featured on commercials for the film Just Married. It was in The Pacifier, promotional advertisements on Nickelodeon for some of their all-day-long TV marathons in the summer, Season 2, Episode 11 of Smallville, American Pie Presents Band Camp, soundtrack of Project Gotham Racing and Guitar Hero Live, the film Hop in 2011, and there's definitely more. That is a selection. So there's definitely like a lot of irony there in it was written for a movie, didn't get used in that movie, but it's since been used in a bunch of movies.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a blast from the past reading some of those like Smallville. I used to have like that soundtrack because my sister or she probably had it and then I stole it from her. But like some of those like early 2000s shows have like such good music. I mean, obviously like the OC, Smallville, the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Prime of the soundtrack for me.
I've been watching Riverdale, and it has an okay soundtrack, but I really want to go back and watch the OC because I never watched it.
Oh, it's so good. The last season you could skip if you want. But
Okay. Can I watch it? It's got to be on one of the streaming services, right?
I think it's on Hulu.
Okay. So I have like a smart TV and it has Netflix and everything, and like I have Hulu like installed, but then like a few weeks ago my TV said, oh, Hulu is no longer supported on this device.
That's great.
So I had bought 1 month of Hulu because I wanted to watch the Twilight films again, and Hulu was where they are. And I have to watch it on my laptop. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I have the hookup, the lightning cable or whatever for my
that's
MacBook.
Smart. That's smart.
Yes.
I've been thinking about, because I have my work desktop, I've been thinking about like at least just using like the HDMI, I think it's called. I don't know things. But just to like hook my laptop into the desktop monitor, so even like if I podcast, have my notes on the bigger screen, might be a little easier. I want to talk about high school and our high school experiences. So what were your peers like in high school?
I mean, I don't know. Milltown, where I live, or in Connecticut, is where I live, and it's like a pretty diverse place. I feel like there was kind of, a little bit of everyone. I don't know.
I went to. Did you go to a private school or public school?
I went to public school.
I went to a private school that was a small school, but it was definitely diverse. But like they had very few slackers, like very, very few slackers, because it's like a private school that's competitive to get into. And it was like kind of more artsy than some of the private schools in the area, but still it would be like, people, the popular kids, some of them were theater kids, but a lot of them were like jocks, because that's what it is in high school, right?
Yeah.
What were your teachers like in high school? Like, do you identify at all with that feeling of like, the teachers kind of not believing you and feeling like high school is a penitentiary?
I mean, to an extent, yes. I mean, like socially, I, just kind of had acquaintances, but didn't have like a super tight knit group of friends or anything. I mean, I did cross country and track, so I had that kind of little community, but we didn't necessarily, connect in like a friendly way,
right?
More like transactional in a way. And I feel like as far as teachers go, I don't know. I was a good student. I got, mostly straight A's. So I don't know. I feel like I was maybe more rebellious in my mind than in like my actions.
I realized that too, personally. Like as I look back on my high school, I broke the dress code a lot. Never badly enough that I got detention, but they did make me like put on sweatpants under a skirt a couple of times, things like that. Definitely made me like change shoes a couple of times. Yeah,
I'm probably the kind of person who would have cried if I got detention.
Yeah, I never got detention. I was definitely like, I was pretty well behaved, right? Like I did not listen per se to like what people wanted from me, but I definitely was like pretty well behaved. What were you listening to in high school? Like, what was number one favorite band in hand school? Was Wonder Years a band yet for you in high school?
Yeah, so I first saw the Wonder Years in 2009, and I graduated in 2011. And so I'd say they were pretty much my favorite bands pretty quickly after that. Sure. So definitely when I was still in high school, Silverstein were a big one for me. Set Your Goals and 4 Year Strong.
I forget how long 4 Year Strong's been around. Like I always forget.
I forget that they're still around.
Right?
It left a bad taste in my mouth the way they kicked Josh out of the band.
I don't remember what happened. I've never like paid too close attention to them. Can I ask like what?
I mean, it wasn't like the worst thing in the world or anything, but they like had gone into the studio without him. Oh. And then, which I guess was normal at the time because he played keys. So, it's kind of more, he was there for a lot of the crowd work and stuff. He didn't necessarily have like these crazy parts or anything, but then they like just took him out to dinner and were like, yeah, we're continuing the band without you.
Oh my
and
God.
We already had music recorded, and it's like, that's pretty shady. Not that like I think they're horrible people, but it's just like, and I mean, the album after that didn't connect with me, and then I just
right. So
Josh has a really good. He's in this band called Foxfires. Well, they're not super active right now, but they have some. Really
is any band? How many bands are super active right now? Sorry to be dark, but I'm
True.
actually, after this, I'm staying up well past my bedtime tonight to watch Arizona's live stream, which starts at 10 p.m. Eastern, which is like when I'm drinking sleepy time tea and in bed most nights. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Last question about like high school that I want to ask, but what did high school you think that you would be doing at your current age?
I really don't like. I never really had. This sounds so bad, like, but I never really had aspirations. Like, I just kind of was like, I'll go to college, get a job, whatever.
Right.
I ended up transferring colleges a couple times, but I'm getting my diploma like a semester late or whatever. And my degree was in music industry, and then
There you go.
Then I was working at Whole Foods for a while. Then I was doing ambulance billing, and now I'm doing data entry for a company that sells audio equipment. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't necessarily have an idea of what I'd be like. Just kind of wanted an average life that I was comfortable with, and I'm getting there.
I think high school me thought I would be a musician for sure. Which we could talk separately about why that just wasn't going to happen, but close enough. Scott, did you have like any specific memories or stories you want to share about the anthem?
Well, I do have just one more thing about reflecting on where I would have thought I would be. I never would have thought I would be doing interviews.
Really?
Because social anxiety is a big thing for me, and anxiety in general. But,
same. But it's not just social for me.
Yes, but I don't know, just like going to a conversation and being prepared, being the one asking the questions has really helped.
Being like the one who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, so that's really helped in a lot of areas of my life. So that is definitely one thing that I did not expect and is a pleasant surprise.
I found that too. It like interviews and all the street teaming I did, especially like in-person interviews, it's like a little bit different, but like you have to have some confidence. Even if you have to fake it, like you have to at least act like you know what you're doing going into an interview. And that really helped my just like confidence in general and thus anxiety that I felt.
Yeah, for sure.
Although obviously I still deal with it frequently. Something I like to mention is how songs relate to other songs in their catalog. So, I mean, obviously we mentioned Little Things, and this kind of trying to be Little Things 2.0, but it's kind of like whereas Little Things was very specific, this feels a lot more general. The Click, it also makes me think of a few of the early songs, right, where they're like, we don't fit in, right? So let's talk about the music video for this song.
I feel like it's a very early 2000s music video.
Oh my god, yes. So, quick facts. Premiered January 2003 on MTV. It won Best Rock Video at the MTV VMAs in Japan in 2004. They also played at the VMAs in 2003. It won People's Choice Favorite International Group at Much Music Video Awards. I feel like it won other awards too. Maybe I'll have to come in and edit.
I feel like it must have won like a Kids' Choice Award from Nickelodeon or something.
I feel like, they definitely at least got nominated. Actually, let me look that up right now. They won Favorite International Band at the Nickelodeon Australian Kids' Choice Awards in 2007.
Australia is an interesting place. I feel like like Good Charlotte, you first played New Zealand. You said they first played the anthem in New Zealand. I feel like there's a lot of like Blink-182 stuff that happened in Australia, and it's very interesting to me. They definitely like. I talked. You mentioned Bugs earlier, and I also talked to this band Yours Truly a couple weeks ago.
Are they also Australian?
Yeah, they're also Australian, kind of in the similar pop punk realm. And Australia just seems to have like kind of more of a base, more of like a like a path for bands to go from underground to some sort of mainstream success. Like they have like Triple J, which is like the big kind of like rock radio station. But it's, I don't know, there's something about it. It seems like especially like the pop punky, like alternative bands, they have a way of, you know, getting into the mainstream like bands used to in 2003.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even like Good Charlotte's 5th album, Cardiology, which like didn't do very well in the US, did pretty well in Australia. And I'm sure some of that comes down to like promotion and stuff, right? But yeah, that's really cool to hear that Australia has such a like pathway for rising artists.
Yeah.
So this video has cameos by members of Mest and Homegrown. Newfound Glory was on set, but I guess they didn't end up in the final video. So, story of this video. So they kind of roll up on bicycles. There's like a low riding car. They're playing in a skate park. Are they throwing a party or are they crashing someone else's party?
I feel like the crowd seems into it. I feel like they're, which is, I don't know, something that I found kind of interesting is like, you know, the song is about being a loser, but the video is kind of like them as part of a community.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it's necessarily like intentional, but I feel like it almost speaks to like the cliche of like, you're not alone. Like no matter who you are, there's someone out there like you just need to find them.
I couldn't tell because like definitely like people are into it. I couldn't tell if like they're supposed to be crashing the party or if they're the ones like throwing the party. I almost want to say that they crashed the party, but then everyone ended up being really into it.
And then like won people over.
Right. That's
I think that makes a little bit more sense.
I think that's the story I'm going to tell myself anyway, because that's just very, very punk, I think. I also want to point out that Benji's shirt is blurred out.
Yeah, that was really weird.
I don't know why. I'm sure someone on some fan site somewhere had you know discussed this and determined what shirt he was wearing and why it was blurred. But yeah, I don't know. Like, was he wearing a shirt with something graphic on it? Was it like a copyrighted logo? Why could he not have? Why didn't they just have him put on a different shirt?
I mean, it kind of seems like they didn't care that much about the industry side of things. So I almost feel like it could have been like an oversight. Like they just wore what they wore. And then once the like record label saw it, they were like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And then they're also like, we can't reshoot it either though.
That it feels like such an obvious, like, though, like, but who knows? I wonder what shirt he was wearing that had to get blurred out. Or maybe that was just YouTube censoring it. I don't know. Or, you know, maybe it had to be kind of censored for YouTube.
Yeah.
I do believe that's a cameo from Benji's dog, Cash Dog, the boxer. Cash Dog is a very cute dog. Benji, dog at the time, no longer with us. I also really appreciate just how much they all ham it up for the camera in this. Like, obviously Joel, of course, being the front man, but Benji does it, Billy does it, and then Paul has some moments too, you know, just really playing with the camera and like really just having fun, and it's very silly, and it definitely feels like one of those things that it's either like the most punk thing or the least punk thing about it, that they're like so into being on camera.
Yeah, I feel like it has similarities with Sum 41's Fat Lip, like the kind of the attitude they're giving the camera, and like just like the way, like you said, they're just like really into it, and like it's like, I don't know, it seems genuine, but it also seems like so put on, that like so over the top that it's put on. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any further comments on this video?
I think that's about all I had.
I think it's also kind of a nice contrast from like the Little Things video, which had a little more defined of a storyline. Although it was also like they kind of break into this high school and then they're gonna play in the gym. And this feels a little more like they're just hanging out.
Yeah, definitely showing that personality. Yeah. Like I said, I was kind of surprised by the way they looked, just because it's not, just based on the sound itself, you're not thinking like they look darker and almost like new metal-esque.
Yeah, one of my early guests had mentioned that like they saw them at Warped Tour in like 2001, and he goes, they're playing like basically pop music, but they look like the Casualties.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's a little funny, isn't it? Let's talk about some covers and parodies of it. There was a Christian Anthem parody. There were a couple good covers. Paper Rockets. Did you get to listen to any of the covers?
Yeah, so the Christian guy needs to commit to his vocals.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was like hiding in a closet trying not to wake someone. I'm like, it was like, you're so into Jesus, like,
right,
spread it, like,
right, like we've had a lot of gospel videos come through my company recently, and what they all have in common is like that they are just full force into it.
Yeah,
they believe what they're saying, and you can hear that in their voice. Like
the lyrics were like, for a parody, which parody also I feel like implies like that it's a joke. But this definitely so at first I wasn't sure if it was a joke or not. But yeah, I feel like if you just sold it,
right,
I feel like it could hold, it would work because like I said, the lyrics were pretty well done.
Yeah. I liked the ukulele cover by Elise Eklund. She did get some of the lyrics at the end wrong, but that's okay. People mess things up.
Which is so funny that you took out that, and that I saw that comment, her saying she thought it, like her life is a lie. She always thought it was never lose your anthem. And so my fiance has been telling me for weeks, maybe even months, that there was a lyric she misheard in this song. And she refused to tell it to me. She was like, maybe I'll tell you before the podcast.
Oh my God.
And then it was that line, and she thought it was those lyrics. She thought it was never lose your anthem.
There you go. So Elise like, wasn't alone.
Yes, I love the synchronicity of that.
Yeah. There was a cover by a band called Pollyanna, and like I didn't even look at the video, but I messaged, because there's a band called Pollyanna from New Jersey, and I messaged their singer last night. I was like, oh my God, I just saw this cover. Like, I would love to just have it on my podcast. And she replies, and she goes, oh, what cover? It was a different band called Pollyanna.
That's a pretty unique name. I don't know how that happened.
Right?
Which, there's a podcast called A Fly on the Call now. And throwing shade at them.
Right. Kill the Director did a cover. Yeah, there's also a lot of like guitar tutorial or drum tutorial covers of this song. So you got your pick. There's lots going on.
Yeah, I thought the breakdown in the Pollyanna cover was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, it's one of those songs that's kind of like so ingrained in my head that a cover has to be kind of like vastly different. Like the ukulele one, or like the Vitamin String Quartet one.
Yes, Vitamin String Quartet one is cool.
Those appealed to me more than like the Pollyanna one, just because like, it did well. The sound, it was, the style of pop goes punk, or punk goes pop. Like it did that style well, but that song is pop goes punk already, or punk goes pop already.
Right.
So it just left me like wanting more until they hit that breakdown. Then I was like, okay, this part I can dig.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying about just wanting a cover that, to me, it's like, it's either got to be spot on or completely different.
Yeah, and if it's spot on, it's almost like I might as well just listen to the original.
Right. All right, everyone. I am coming in here with Scott on a separate Zoom call because I just found one more cover of the Anthem. And look, there's a zillion covers of the Anthem on the internet. We did not even come close to covering them all. But when I saw that Scottoon Network just put out a cover a week ago as of the date of recording, December 17th, I was like, Scott, we got to talk about this. So as background, if anyone is not familiar with Cartoon Network, Jer Hunter films these videos in a room in their home that are ska covers of all kinds of songs, basically. A lot of pop punk stuff. You know, there's some Blink songs recently, but they also recently did Billie Eilish Bad Guy, Chumbawamba Tub Thumping, The Killers Mr. Brightside. I mean, the Cartoon Network YouTube channel has 184,000 subscribers. They have like 31,000 Twitter followers, and this video has 16,000 views in the first week, which is so sick. And I don't know much about ska, but like I've watched a bunch of these videos and they're so much fun. And I just think the whole concept is so impressive. And I remember a while ago, Scott, I think hadn't you and I talked about like, oh my gosh, I wonder if Jer would ever be open to talking about Good Charlotte. I wonder if they have any thoughts on Good Charlotte. That would be sick. So this was like totally fate, I think.
Oh yeah, and it's definitely the best cover I think that I've heard.
Yes. I mean, definitely this is my favorite, the Anthem cover. I listened to it, so I put it on like twice yesterday, and then once earlier, and then like 4 or 5 times. You know, sitting on my laptop just now. Initial thoughts, initial reactions. Like, what sticks out to you about the cover?
I mean, I think when, we originally recorded the rest of the episode, one of the things I said was kind of like that this song is so kind of like ubiquitous and so like in your head that you kind of need something totally different to, have it be a cover that's like, okay, I can stand behind this. Either it needs to sound like exactly like the song or it needs to be something totally different. And this falls into that totally different category. And it's like so well done. Like, I think one of the comments on the YouTube video is like, the anthem was made to be a ska song. We just didn't know it until now. And
honestly,
that pretty much sums up my feelings of it.
A few people have said the scanthem, like SKA, ska in capitals, which I think is very fitting.
Puns.
Yeah. I think that's something and knowing very little about ska, I do appreciate the kind of humor and good nature that, tends to be very pervasive in the genre.
Yeah, it's very much like over the top ridiculous. Like you just say it because you feel compelled to, not because you think it's actually funny.
Yes. But I can appreciate that because there's like a certain fearlessness, I think, in like, fuck it, I'm just gonna say whatever comes to my mind instead of filtering yourself.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that kind of fits with the spirit of the song as well.
Oh, exactly. Completely. I love watching Jer play because I guess it must be done in like several different takes, but they are just such a performer. Like I feel like you never see a ska band that's chill. I don't know, but like Jer just knows what they're doing so well, just in terms of being on screen. I love that. In terms of the song itself, I mean, I think the whole thing is great. I think my favorite part is the bridge, like the shake it once, that's fine. Shake it twice, that's okay. I think that breakdown just sounds super great. And you're right, like it's so different, but it also works very well.
For sure, yeah. And I'm such a sucker for any time like there's horns well done into a song.
Yes. And Jer is definitely an expert horn player. I mean, obviously these videos, I think Cartoon Network is like how they actually make a living. Like the channel itself, just all the revenue from that. I feel like I've seen that. But on top of that, Jer also plays trombone in We Are the Union. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is really fun. I think I did notice some of the lyrics seem slightly changed, and I think that's just kind of like to fit the new rhythm of the song. But I'm not like mad. I'm like, all right, like I get it. It works. Yeah, I'm going to link also, listeners, I'm going to link in the show notes a recent interview with Scott Network just to give you, I'll put the Vice piece too. So this recent interview is from thatpunkzine.com. I will also include the Vice interview that I think was like 2 years ago. That's super informative and just a very, very fun read. Any other comments on this, Scott?
Just shout out to the Christmas album they just dropped as well. They the covers of Linus and Lucy from Charlie Brown Christmas and
Amazing.
Snow Miser and Heat Miser are like top notch.
Amazing. I'm excited to check that all out. I love a good Christmas song, even though I'm Jewish. Just lit the menorah for the final night of Hanukkah as we're recording this.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for hopping on for a second call. I've wondered long when this would happen that I would have to like pop on for like a second call with someone. I'm like, I know it's gonna happen. But yes, I'm glad this worked well. Thank you for hopping on, Scott.
Oh yeah, of course.
Let's read some press. Modern Fix interviewed Joel, Warped Tour 2002. So I guess they were probably playing some songs live, and this interviewer Jason says that Loser Anthem, that song totally sticks in my head all the time. I like the other songs too, but that one just sticks in my head more. Not that the other songs are bad, I'm just saying this guy was onto something. This guy was onto something. I mean, did this not end up being a major hit? I just really appreciated that context from like before the album came out and like this song had actually hit anywhere.
Yeah, I hope he has that as like one of those bragging moments. Like,
yeah,
I liked that song before it was cool.
Before the album even came out. Yeah. Christian website Plugged In from Focus on the Family was not a fan. So they do these album reviews where they're not saying like, is it good or bad music? They say, is this, you know, for good Christian children, godly children, or is this for heathens? Is this sinful? And in their objectional content talking about this song, they say the anthem belittles education, calling high school a jail cell, and ambition, no need for a real job, deciding I'm gonna get by and just do my time. Fair point. That's true. I can't argue with that.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with being a Christian or not, but
yeah, it's not, you know, it's not, I should say that like the reviews on the site aren't entirely Christian, like so much as do they have like quote unquote good family values?
Yeah.
You
morals.
know, which I think, you know, belittling education and ambition is definitely not good Christian values.
But it's something that Good Charlotte's proud of.
Right. Drowned in Sound, to me, they seem to not really get it. They said, predictably, the anthem is nothing more than Green Day mugging cliche. Apparently, the boys called Charlotte don't want to be like us, i.e. students, anyone with a day job. Which is fine if you're earning millions thanks to corporations and their 9-to-5 staff. For the rest of us, it's work as usual. If this is just another loser anthem, then why did they bother writing it in the first place?
For the paycheck.
Right. Also a little tongue-in-cheek at,
yes,
you know, a movie literally saying we want you to write a loser anthem. But again, that, you know, maybe they didn't have that context, right?
Yeah.
Pop Matters was not a fan. And now, as we talk about negative criticism of Good Charlotte, maybe you've heard this on other episodes, Scott. Listeners, we have talked about Adrian Biggerhand's review of The Young and Hopeless several times. He reviewed, I think it was Cardiology or Good Morning Revival as well. We have talked about it several times because it's a very good example of very if you ask me, unnecessarily negative reviews by someone who I do not believe was the target audience. They talk about, you know, the intro track, A New Beginning, that segues into the equally ham-fisted The Anthem, which panders in that belligerent Vans Warped Tour style to angry 13-year-olds, I don't ever want to be you. Sure, there are all the bouncy guitars, the catchy melodies, and the requisite whoa-ohs, but every other punk pop band in America is doing this as well. Which is like true, but to me, what I get from that is I am not the target demographic of this, and I do not get it. It is not targeted to me, so therefore it is bad. That's what I get.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it also misses the, what in some ways is the most important thing with music is just that it goes, it bangs. Like it is all those things they said it is, but it's them done very well in a way that, is appealing to a broad audience. So it doesn't really matter what you think if other people are like it. Like sometimes it just is as simple as that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about some of the retrospectives of this album. So there were a lot of great like retrospective type pieces, but Punktastic did a 15-year retrospective on The Young and the Hopeless, and they said that the anthem remains one of the best two fingers up to society songs out there, and that the simple chorus and jokey middle eight make it accessible to a wealth of serious issues. And that for a teenager, hearing someone sing about the pressures of making a success of yourself gave us something to relate to, something to cling on to in a stressful time in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sums it up very well. I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, it's like the perfect like middle school, high school dance song where it's like you're going through things and you can relate to it.
Yeah. Under the Influence also had a nice retrospective piece from 2018 saying we were the generation living in the shadow of being able to buy a house by 25, the nuclear family, also ironically portrayed in the artwork, and working a lousy office job so we could live for the weekend. And that's why this record spoke to us and in many ways influenced the work ethics and the rebellious generation that us millennials have become today. There was a really, really nice alternative press article on how this album helped make them icons. And it said that the anthem was a literal calling card for the disenfranchised youth, with its unforgettable outro of Another Loser Anthem, which reinforced the idea that Good Charlotte was going for status. There was no real reason for Good Charlotte to not be revered, yet they found the critical aspect of the game wasn't taking to them. The album was referred to as being cliche-ridden and Green Day light, amongst other unfavorable opinions. Did we not just quote that? And then this article just talks about, the fact that they actually went and made a hit, gave them leverage that people didn't anticipate. And they kind of had this odd place of, as every alternative kid was due to enter their teenage years, the ones who battled against the mainstream loved the idea of a band that both looked and sounded like Good Charlotte, attacking the drain on culture known as celebrity, while they were considered uncool because they weren't genre-breaking or held the reverence of bands like Nirvana or Blink-182. Everyone held a soft spot for them because they were saying something no one else was. This piece says they were strangely still uncool, which made them somehow cooler, like a contraband pop punk band. And I think it's exactly that kind of makes so many people like hold Good Charlotte like really close to them in an emotional way.
Yeah, calling them Green Day light. Like, I'm curious what reviewers who thought that way when this came out, what they thought about American Idiot. Because I feel like American Idiot, which came out
2 years after this album, by the way.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of like an extenuation of things on this album. Like,
yeah, I mean, American Idiot's definitely a political album, and I wouldn't say this is a political album.
I guess I mean like more so like the attitude and just kind of like the brashness of presenting your opinion as like something that's like dissenting to like the norm.
Well, and like American Idiot went and made Green Day at the time like kind of the biggest rock band, right, in the world. So I don't know. I think what I'm gonna do. So I've been trying to figure out how I could get some of these like early reviewers, like the person who wrote this Pop Matters review. They're gonna listen. They're gonna be like, yeah, sure, I'll come on. Like I'll defend what I had to say 18 years ago, and they'll be
I'm
like,
now 40,
bro, you thought way more about my review than I ever did from you. But I think that would be nice. Like once I have done every song on like each album, I'll come back and do a retrospective episode on the album as a whole and get like one person who liked it and one person who didn't like it when it first came out. Whether
Put
that's
them in
like
a cage match.
right, whether that's like fans or reviewers, and we can talk about it.
I like that.
A lot of outlets have included the anthem on different best of lists, so I'll just go through those. Kron put it on their 20 best pop punk songs of the 2000s. NME, which has been really back and forth on Good Charlotte, like they put them in this list, but then they had this really, really nasty review of Cardiology. But it put the anthem on 20 essential pop punk tracks that everyone should know. Spin put it on the 21 best pop punk choruses of the 21st century at number 21. And they said the history of anthems would suggest that it is inadvisable to actually title your respective anthem the anthem, much less to inform listeners that this is the anthem right there in your album's chorus. But yeah, throw your damn hands up. Shout out to Madden 2003. Rocksound also put it on a playlist. Let's read some fan comments. There was a Reddit thread I just had to mention from r/music. User Stick Foreigner just posted the video. User Slice of Americano said, "It's a fact, Good Charlotte is the worst band of all time." And then the person who posted this basically agreed and was like, yeah, like you're kind of, it was something along the lines of like, yeah, you're right, but like, I don't know, I still think it's cool. I'm just like,
again,
okay.
Have some conviction, man.
Right, like have some
woman.
conviction. Like, it's Reddit, nobody knows who you are. Like, you can like something that's not cool.
It's the point of the song.
Yeah. Should we read the YouTube comments or the song meaning? Let's read the YouTube comments first and then the song meaning comments. Aguilar Lara said, people who were teenagers at 2000 to 2010 were so lucky. The Sleeping Tyrant said, to all the other millennials here commenting, this makes me feel old. Now you know how your boomer parents feel when they listen to the Eagles or Led Zeppelin or whatever. Spitfire King said, this song makes me want to drop out of high school and go party forever. Nick Griffith said, just decided I'm going to introduce my 8-year-old daughter to Good Charlotte today. She already digs old school Avril. She'll love GC. I think she will. So let's listen. Let's read some song meanings comments. And now, Scott, did you ever spend time on songmeanings.com?
I feel like it was one of those sites I would like occasionally end up on, but it would be like so random. I don't even know, like whatever Ask Jeeves results.
So you're familiar. You're familiar with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're also familiar then that song meanings comments are just always a ride. And especially for Good Charlotte, they've always been. Most of them that we've read have been back and forth, right? But the comments on this song, holy shit. People were not into it. They were vicious. And I kind of have to wonder, like, if you're in a band and people are saying this stuff about you, like, are you reading it? You know? I feel like if I read this stuff, I mean, whenever I read comments, I try to like scroll through kind of everything and basically represent like every, you know, there's usually like, when you scroll through pages of comments, usually there's like a couple main points you kind of pull, right? Yeah. I couldn't even with this. I mean, calling Good Charlotte slurs, saying they should die a slow and painful death. So we're just going to read some comments, and most of them are negative. I'm not going to read, I think, everything I have written here, but Jaded One said in August 2002, just heard the song live tonight in Buffalo. Not very many people knew the song, but GC still got the crowd going. User Mahiko Fish said, great song. I heard it from Madden 2003 and couldn't stop listening to it. Good Charlotte is amazing. Some people like it, right? User X Bright X Eyes X. Great, you know, I don't know. Do I comment on that username? Also in August 2002, I rate their new CD a big fat 0. Do not under any circumstances buy the CD. That is if you want to listen to good music. If you want to laugh at the horribly written music and half-ass attempts at emo, feel more than free to download it.
I feel like that speaks to the quote, like the opposite of love isn't hate, it's
Indifference.
like indifference. Yeah.
Well, it's like also
these-
you felt motivated enough to go to songmeanings.com and leave a comment.
Yeah, that I can't imagine being the type of person who would do that.
Yeah. Dr. Teeth said, "Don't listen to Bright Eyes. This CD effing rocks. Every song is amazing. That's what's great about Good Charlotte." I don't know how weird it is that the song is in Madden. They also had a song in NHL Hits. Maybe they like video games. I don't know. Whatever. It's good exposure for them. H2O Girl 007 in March 2003 said GC should stop trying too hard to be popular. What's with the MTV shit? TRL? Sorry. No thanks. User Fuck You All in March 2003 said, "I can't wait till in a few months when GC are no longer cool and no one likes them and are embarrassed about liking them." Definitely this person is eating their words. I hope this person is listening to this podcast and then wants to come on and we can have a chat. User Super Sick in March 2003 said, "You guys are funny. Who cares besides you guys if the guys in the band are posers? I sure as hell don't. As long as the music is good, I think that's all that matters. You people are forgetting that bands sing songs. Bands, that's what they're mostly famous for. Songs. Not for who they are. For what they sing. Get that through your heads."
I feel like that's on the slightly good side of the separate the art
Right.
the artist debate.
Yes. Last one I'll read. There's so many. Guitarist _10 in May 2003 said, "They're not punk? ? God, are you a effing D-bag or something? They have stated numerous times that we play punk rock and roll. For one, if you've never read that statement, it was in like Guitar World a few months ago. And if they weren't punk, so what? They still play pop punk music and say that fitting in is..." I'm reading this quote. I don't endorse this. They say that fitting in is gay, hence this song. I don't believe Good Charlotte ever said fitting in is gay. But this is the early 2000s. People on the internet liked to say that things they didn't like or they didn't want to do were gay. And gay was a slang at the time, right? Although, obviously, that's well fallen out of taste. And yet, that's what they do best at. They play the music that people dig. I play music like Black Sabbath mixed with Skynyrd and Zeppelin. You sound fun. You think that had some millions in this day and time? No, of course not, because it was a thing of the past. In any case, I'm still right, so deal with it. First of all, listen to, like, what's that band? The one that sounds just like Led Zeppelin. With the kids from, like, Michigan or something.
Yeah, I know,
You know what I'm
you
talking
mean.
about.
I do. I can't think of
Wait,
it,
hold
though.
on. Greta Van Fleet. Yeah, you sound fun. Guitarist _10, you sound really fun. You sound like you're really fun at parties. And you sound like you're a great time to, like, go to a concert with. Like, wow.
No, I just can't. I can't fully even tell what side they're on. It almost seems like they're saying it doesn't matter whether they're punk or not.
Right.
But like at the same time, they're like also screwed.
Well, they're
up.
just playing what's going to get them popular.
I guess,
Which, like,
yeah.
also is clearly someone that's not paying attention to Good Charlotte. But, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on the criticism and the comments that we've read?
I don't know. I just like I said, I can't imagine being the type of person that would do this type of thing. And
Right.
referred to them as emo, and I don't think I've ever heard
But
that.
that got conflated a lot, I think, especially in the early 2000s, you know?
Yes. I was definitely I'm not emo middle schooler listening to My Chem, and
Yeah, right.
which I was right, isn't emo, but
I would say My Chem is emo, and the people who are like, I know that, like, washed up emo and people like that would say My Chem is not really emo. I think those people sound like they are really fun at parties. People people that get really caught up on what is emo sound.
Yeah, I mean, genre is like so pointless, and I love that genre has just continued to break down.
I bought the URL realemo.me a few years ago, and I never like really built it out into a website, but I pretty much just put a photo of, like, you know, some like Triple Crown Records band, and I just said, people keep I just said something like people keep discussing what is and isn't really emo. I decided, you know what? I'm real emo. That's basically it. All right. So to wrap this up, Scott, how has the anthem held up for you over time?
I mean, I think it's undoubtedly a hit. Like I said, I feel like it holds up better than some of the other singles at the time. Like Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous and Boys Like Girls seem, I don't know, I guess like less meaningful in a way. So yeah, I mean, I think it still goes.
Amazing. What has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed?
I mean, like I said, they were definitely one of those bands that I heard songs that I liked, and that generally got me moving towards the type of music that I listen to now. I mean, I definitely remember I went through a phase of checking out like as many CDs as I could from the library, and I'm pretty sure The Young the Hopeless was one of them, possibly The Chronicles of the Life and Death too. But lots of times I'm almost like an archivist because like I don't necessarily listen to all the music that I used to download and stuff.
You just had to have it, yeah.
But
I have CDs that I've never opened, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I listened to The Young and the Hopeless in full today, and I actually recognized probably almost 10, like around 10 of the 14 songs. So I feel like that was pretty good. And as far as how what they mean to me has changed, I've recently been listening to a lot more of them just because my fiance will put it on in the car, and I don't know, I like them. They got the songs that like the singles especially are like they're catchy and they're good, and that's, like I said, sometimes that's all you need.
Amazing. Do you have any last words about the anthem, about Good Charlotte, about Fly on the Call, or about yourself?
Let's see. Listen to Fly on the Call. At Fly on the Call Pod on
amazing.
Instagram and Twitter. Available anywhere you can get podcasts. If it's ever not in your preferred podcast player, let me know and I'll try to get that sorted out.
And your episodes also come out on Wednesdays, right?
Yes, they do.
So listeners, here's what you're going to do. After you listen to this episode on a Wednesday, you're going to go check out the newest episode of Fly on the Call.
Yeah, and I actually, a couple weeks ago, I put out, by the time this is up, it'll be a couple months ago, I put out a Greatest Hits episode, which kind of compiles some of my favorite clips from the first year of the podcast. So there's some...
That's so fun.
Yeah, so
maybe we should tell people to start with that.
Yeah,
so they can kind of get an idea. Yeah.
There's Silverstein, Meet Me at the Altar, The Wonder Years, Glass Beach, Origami Angel, Barty Strange, a bunch of other really good ones. And yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of the types of conversations that I used to or that I like to have. Part of the podcast network, Sound Talent Media. Check them out at soundtalentmedia.com, at STM Podcasts on their socials. And
amazing.
Yeah, I love doing this. I want Fly on the Call to be a place where people come to find new bands to fall in love with. So if you even find one, or even just give one a shot because of me, I'll be stoked for that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here is sort of your chance. So we do the Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist, which is another idea I sort of got from you when I saw you had done a Fly on the Call playlist, where we put the songs that we covered on the show, and I'll probably include like the Vitamin String Quartet version because that's on Spotify. And then I like to get a recommendation from our guests just of something they've been listening to lately. So what would you like to leave our listeners with as a recommendation?
Let's see. I think what's likely going to be my number one album of the year is Spanish Love Songs, Brave Faces Everyone.
Okay, yeah. Which song?
I'll say, well, let's go for the title track, Brave Faces Everyone. It's a really great closer with some really hard-hitting lyrics that if you like the anthem, you'll probably relate to them in some way as well.
I have a group chat with a couple friends where we referred, at a time, the group chat was named the West Coast Menzingers Fan Club because I had referred to Spanish Love Songs as the West Coast Menzingers. But if you like between Menzingers, if you like the Wonder Years, any bands like that, I think definitely you will like Spanish love songs. Scott, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for giving me your time and for coming on the show and just for all of your help and advice podcasting, because I know I've asked you like many questions and I appreciate it a lot. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely going to have to revisit this song because it's such a massive hit. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Generation GC. Please follow us at Generation GC Pod, P-O-D, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also follow me, Molly, at Hudelson, Hudelson, on Twitter and Instagram. And please follow and subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast provider. And like Scott said, if Generation GC is not wherever you listen to podcasts, let me know so I can make sure that it is. Please rate and review the show wherever you listen, and most importantly, tell a friend, because word of mouth is such a huge way to spread the word and help this show grow. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week.